So now that we have our user object, we have our user interface, and we have our form values interfaces as well. And we also need to actually export this user object. So I'm just going to export default and also export the user here. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a user store. So we're finally going to create an additional store for anything like our user requests and storing users and anything related to our user. We'll make use of our user store for. And inside the stores, I'm just going to create a new file and call this userstore.ts. And what we want to do here is say export class or export default class and user store. And what we'll do is we'll just create an observable and make sure we bring this in from Mobx as well. And this is going to be for our user, and it's going to be a type of iUser, and make sure we bring this in as well, and we'll set this initially to null. And we're getting an error, of course, because we can't assign null to our iUser, so we also need to make this a union type so that we can specify null in this circumstance. And what we'll also do is we'll create a computed property so that we can identify if the user's actually logged in. And if there is something in our user, then we know that our user is actually logged in. So I'm just going to create a computed property, and we'll just bring this in as well from Mobx. And this one will say get is logged in. And all we'll do here is we'll simply return a boolean, so we'll add the double exclamation marks, and we'll say list.user. What we'll also do is create our action at this time as well, so that we can create the method for a user to actually log in. So we'll create an action and also make sure this is brought in from Mobx as well. And we'll call this one login. We'll make it an async method. And we'll pass in some values, and we're going to get these from our form. So these are going to be our iUser form values. And let's make sure we bring this in as well. And what we'll do in this one is we'll add a try-catch block and pass in the error. And we'll just console.log the error in this case. And inside the try, what we'll do is we'll say const user equals await. And we want to get our agent and bring this in and say user.login. And we want to pass the values to our login method. And obviously we're going to get these from a form that we've yet to create. And after this we'll assign the user object we get back from our API, and we'll assign this to our user observable. So what we need to make sure is that we can access this user store from our React components. And what we did with our activity store, let's just go back and take a look at this. What we did with this is we created a class, and in the export down the bottom of this file, what we did is we exported defaults, and then we created a context, the default React context, and we're actually storing our activity store, a new instance of our activity store inside our React context. But what we really want to do is, because now we've got multiple stores, we want a way of accessing all of our stores from our context. And there are occasions where we might want to access another store from within another store. And one way we can go about doing this, and there are different options with this, but a good way to go about it is to create a root store that then acts as a kind of in-between store for our activity store and our user store. And what we would be able to do is access our, let's say we're in our activity store, we would be able to access our user store via the root store. So what we'll do next is we'll take a look at setting up a root store, and this will involve a small amount of refactoring as well, so that we can add also our user store into this root store. And we'll take a look at how to achieve that next.